Our next question is from Emily in Maumelle, and Emily writes, what's your opinion on how to handle unused vacation time at retirement? Take a lump sum or defer as much as possible into the 401k or 457? Well, Emily, we love that you have that option potentially to do that, and it really does depend. And it depends, I think, mainly on what your need or your desire is, because there's some numbers related, there's some financial things that I think you need to consider. And we're going to get into that first with taxes, but there's all kinds of other things that really what fits you, what fits your need. But on the tax side, how much money are we talking about, right? I mean, there are a lot of careers out there that if you don't use your vacation time, it accrues, and there is a big pile of money waiting for you at the end of your career.
And I do want to talk a little bit about tax brackets, even when we're talking about that, because many people don't really understand tax brackets. What you're talking about is if, let's say that, let's say it's $50,000 that you're going to get. Then with this $50,000, if part of it, let's even say, just $1,000 is going to push you up into that next tax bracket, understand that it's only that $1,000 that's going to be taxed at that higher rate. Most people think that once they go into a higher bracket, that it increases everything, like every dollar, including their first one, is taxed at that higher rate. That's not how it works. It's only what goes above it. But if the majority of that $50,000 was going to be in a higher tax bracket, then you might go, I don't know that that's worth it. And it kind of depends also on, how much of a change in brackets are we talking about. So that's something to consider. And if you're at the end of the year, then you've earned, more money through the calendar year than if you were doing this in, let's say, February. So that might also be a factor. So definitely look at what the tax impact is going to be. If you have a CPA, this is worth a phone call to them to just walk through that and discuss, what the situation might be. And then also, we'll just give you some things to consider. I would think about what are some of your short-term needs, like as you roll into retirement, how is your emergency fund looking? Is it healthy? If it's not, then it might be wise to take some of this and just set it aside as emergency fund needs. You might pay off some outstanding debt that would allow you to have less of an income need. If you pay off a credit card and you don't run the balance back up again, that's also important. So if you pay off a credit card and that saves you $300 a month, then you don't need that $300 in the future as your retirement income. So that's another possibility, as well as look at the age of your vehicle before you retire. Are you going to need to replace that? Is that something that you could do or that would make sense with this? And keep in mind, we're not encouraging you to spend this. It might be very wise for you to save it or to invest it, but these are just some checkpoints to think through.
If you don't take the lump sum and you can defer it, as she mentions in her question, she says 401k and 457. Not sure if she has both available or if she's talking about, it's not likely that she'd have both available because usually a 457 is for a nonprofit entity or a government entity. But let's talk a little bit about the differences there. She may be referring to her spouse, that maybe both of them are going to have some vacation time potentially accrued and potentially monetized so that she has the option to take a lump sum or defer it. If you defer it into your retirement accounts, obviously that takes the tax question out, at least for the here and now. But my question would be, how much retirement income do you need and want? Are you going to have pensions? Are you going to have Social Security? And when does that come in? Your retirement income plan could tell you that if deferring, and especially if it's spouses, right? If it's two lump sums into two retirement accounts, that might change the game a little bit on how much monthly income you could receive in retirement. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between a 401k and a 457 for those who are not aware of that. A 401k is the that's the standard, right? That's the gold standard of employer plans. You put in typically pre-tax, although there's also the option of Roth dollars. But in this case, if we're talking about deferring, you're talking about putting in money on a pre-tax basis, and then when you take it out, it's taxed at ordinary income tax rates. But if you are still working prior to 59 and a half, you can't take that out without penalty. Now, the 457 works in all those same ways with the exception of the penalty part of that. They are built really for teachers, for firemen, for police officers, for people who are likely going to be able to have the opportunity to retire prior to age 59 and a half. So in that case, they're allowed to take distributions prior to 59 and a half and not be penalized. So here's an opportunity if you do need, if you have a retirement income plan, Janet, built for you, and you know how much you're going to need in pre-59 and a half dollars, then that might help you determine if you need to defer that leave time to add to that pre-59 and a half stack of money.
We've worked with a lot of LRPD officers over the years, and they will, instead of calling it a 457, they almost always, to a person, call it deferred comp. Yeah. Some of them will call it by the name of the company that handles the deferred comp plan for them, but many people don't. In our experience, at least with that group, they don't call it by 457. So if you have heard deferred comp, I just want you to know it's the same thing. Mm-hmm.
The last thing you should consider, we talked about on your need or on what fits you. There's also the possibility here I would look at if you don't take a lump sum or defer it, but you take the time. It could actually buy you more retirement time. It is oftentimes we have people who are going to retire and their official date of separation from their employer may be December 31st,
right?
But they're out the door in mid-October.
There have been a few times when that has led to some slightly amusing conversations in the meeting room. You know, somebody will come in and we're like, hey, you got 2 more months to go until retirement, and like, are you ready? And they're like, man, my office is already packed up. I'm just using my days.
That's right.
Like I'm really already retired. It's just not official yet. So
yeah.
we do have quite a few people who do that. So I think really, you know, as we've talked through this question from Emily, I think the most important thing is really for you to just think through these different points and determine, you know, what the best resolution is going to be for you. And if it needs to be something that is a calculation, if you need to have somebody tell you, do you need these figures in your retirement plan, then just feel free to reach out and we can have somebody put together a plan for you so that you know mathematically the impact of that decision on your retirement.